Now, during a speech at the People's Summit in Chicago, Van Jones ripped into the Democratic Party for failing to stop the rise of Donald Trump. Now, among one of his criticisms is the false choice between people of color and the working class. Let's take a look.
They've been keeping this thing going among us on the left. Should we focus on people of color? Should we focus on racial justice? Should we focus on African Americans and Latinos and the rising majority? Or should we instead focus on the white working class? Should we focus on those industrial workers who've been left behind? This is the stupidest false choice that I have ever heard. It's stupid.
Now, here's the thing. Van Jones is absolutely right. What we have right now is a false choice. Working people, turns out a lot of working people are also people of color. Oh, weird, right? Now, the working class isn't just a white working class. So policies that help the working class, since minorities are a part of it, also help minorities. Weird, I know. So absolutely it is a false choice, and it's essentially one of the problems with identity politics. And sure, there is a place for identity politics, for example, like protecting the LGBTQ community. But when it comes to economics, look, there is the rich, and then there's the rest of us. And that really doesn't break down by identity, but more of class. Now, it doesn't really matter if you have all the equal rights in the world, if you can't afford a place to live in the world. Economic justice, turns out, is a pretty big important part of civil rights. It's not a separate issue. Now, let me give you an example. Martin Luther King Jr., he was not killed during a civil rights march. You know what he was doing? On the day before his assassination, he was actually giving a speech for sanitation workers in Memphis in order to help introduce economic justice. He said, quote, "Now our struggle is for genuine equality, which means economic equality. For we know that it isn't enough to integrate lunch counters. What does it profit a man to be able to eat at an integrated lunch counter if he doesn't earn enough money to buy a hamburger and a cup of coffee?" A lot of people tend to leave that out. Even a lot of liberals pointing out Martin Luther King Jr. and civil rights, they forget that his struggle for civil rights is also for economic justice. Because it turns out, again, economic justice is racial justice as well. Now, I think the best way to dismantle racist institutions is to empower both economically and socially and politically those who are being kept down by these racist institutions. Now, Jones continued, and he's actually going to go after the Clinton campaign, and their spending specifically.
I don't mean to be rude, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but the people who ran the Hillary Clinton campaign did not spend their money on white workers, and they did not spend their money on people of color. They spent it on themselves. They spent it on themselves. Let's be honest. They took $1 billion, and set it on fire and called it a campaign. That wasn't a campaign. That's not a campaign. $1 billion for consultants, $1 billion for pollsters, $1 billion for a data operation that was run by data dummies who couldn't figure out that maybe folks in Michigan needed to be organized. That wasn't a campaign. It was a boondoggle. And now they want us to fight about whether black folks or white workers or Latinos or any other group should get the money. First of all, you need to give the money back to the people, period. That's where we gotta start. Start with that. Start with that. Quit getting rich off people's struggles.
Boom. Quit getting rich off people's struggles. Yeah, DNC. Yeah, you can quit it now, okay? Look, he's right. The money spent on the Clinton campaign was absolutely ludicrous. I mean, look, she outspent Donald Trump 2-1. But see, all the money in the world couldn't polish up that turd of a campaign. You know why? Because they had no vision. They ran on essentially nothing, no change, just, yay, establishment, I'm with her, let's do some identity politics, okay? Let's do some more identity politics, and let's try to pit people against each other. No, that's not what you do. You also had empty, meaningless platitudes. And also a lot of negative campaigning. In fact, this was the second most negative campaign ever run, and it turned out having very little policy discussion. Donald Trump had more policy discussion than Hillary Clinton. According to the Wesleyan Media Project that analyzed election ads that ran between June 8, 2016 and the election, said that Clinton's message was devoid of policy discussions in a way not seen in the previous 4 presidential contests. They also found that more than half of Clinton's ads focused on Clinton's positive personal qualities or Trump's negative personal qualities rather than on policy matters, compared to a little over 10% of Trump's ads. Now, campaign advertising for Trump, however, was both more likely to focus on policy issues alone and to focus on a mix of policy and candidates' personal qualities. Not only that, but nearly half of all Clinton campaign spots were negative, whereas more than half of Trump ads were contrast spots, which discussed Clinton's negativity, but also provided information about Donald Trump. Clinton's anti-Trump ads also emphasized her opponent's negative personal qualities rather than questionable policy positions, while about 70% of Trump's ads and his allies that attacked Clinton contained at least some discussion of policy. And when there were contrasts drawn between the two candidates, those contrasts were almost all policy-based. So that's where all that money went to, the $1 billion, right? And where did it end up? What did it end up doing? Well, nothing. And so we see that Trump is bad is a terrible campaign strategy. Because again, this is data. These are hard facts. They looked at these ads and they said, well, these ads are essentially negative in nature, and all they talked about is how bad Trump is. He's a bad guy. Well, nobody cares about that. What are you going to do to help us? What are your positions? Oh, I don't have any positions. I don't have a vision. But Trump, he's a meanie. He's a dumb face. You're not going to win that way. That's a terrible campaign strategy. Now look, there are a lot of people who know her personally describe Clinton as a very detailed policy person. Hell, even Bernie Sanders, and I'm in the middle of reading his book, said she could rattle off detailed policy proposals from memory. But why didn't she do that? She's not a dumb person. She's actually a smart person. Well, I believe it's because of the stupid consultants. And the media, of course, that gets fat off these television ads. She believed that you run a campaign in a traditional way. You just buy a whole bunch of TV ads and you let them do whatever. That's what the consultants told me to do. I'm going to listen to my consultants. Well, that's dumb. She got told that it was nothing more than television ads and not knocking on doors or doing town halls that win elections. They're wrong. The consultants are wrong. What it is it's about talking to the people and giving them a message and giving them a vision. Now, again, it helps to have a message and a vision to give Americans in the first place. But the Clinton campaign, as I kept pointing out, didn't have one. No vision, nothing. Look, political campaigns are changing, thanks to, in part, to social media, and thanks in part to Bernie Sanders. Things are changing. Now, if the Democratic Party doesn't take this to heart, and they continue doing what they're doing, well, they're essentially doomed to continue failing like they did in this election. And the United States, no, the world, can no longer afford to do that. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.